Check this out for yourself. Start things off from crypto Twitter, believe it or not. And, when I saw this, I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm going to show you here in a second. But here it is. Shout out to this guy. He deserves most of the credit, right? I can't just be like, hey, you know what? This is a crypto Hulk moment, right? So I cannot take all the credit, but I can definitely, as a content creator, bring it to you in video format and so on. So shout out to Dip Metaverse. This particular guy right here, I am going to follow him. He just ticked up to 4,600. If you happen to be listening to this at some point on the recorded, shout out to you, man, right? His views are his own. For now, mostly Jasmy, QNT, Gala, and so on, right? Look what he mentions here. He says, took a screenshot of the video, Hara_Jasmy CFO just tweet out. Now, you got to keep in mind, Hara, as we know, I'm going to go ahead and follow him. I don't know why it doesn't say I did, but listen to me for a second. Hara will put some things out. A lot of things are in Japanese. And we're like, man, we can't read this, right? It takes some of the deep divers to kind of get more into it. You maybe wondering like, I don't know. What's the big deal here? Right? It says they do show NFT and PDL. What's PDL? Personal data logger, right? Jasmy's personal data logger says, which is a nice tribute to our Jasmy. Definitely check out the other videos on that channel. Now, some people recognize how big this was, right? So, you have Hara, and he goes, basically like this. Witz, as we know, subsidiary of Toyota, among other things, right? A publicly listed Japanese company that has developed many software products and contributed to society, is a partner company of Jasmy. We would like to continue to promote business partnerships with services that are used by many people. Now, you may feel, well, this isn't the juicy stuff yet. This ain't the breaking news yet. We're going to get into all that. So as we know, right, he puts it out. Doesn't seem that big of a deal. But when you get further into it, you will have noticed some of the things you're about to see right here. And if anything, there's like this stuff, right? And, nobody is really going on that crazy. They're like, oh, that's cool. And it was just basically like this guy who basically got the catch, right? And the catch is, of course, this. And you were maybe thinking like, well, what is that, right? Well, I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into that right now. And if anything, I'm going to play this particular video for you guys, right? So I'm going to pause it at the 50-second mark. And of course, this comes straight from YouTube. This is Witz, as we know. This is a subsidiary for like Toyota, right? People are saying there's no real partnership. There's nothing, right? So most of this, of course, is in Japanese, but we're going to get to the aha moment here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. You're not going to understand it, but just bear with me. Let's get to that mark. Here we go.
考える。やってみる。議論する。やってみる。ちょっと休む。やってみる。また考える。やってみる。うまくいく。喜ぶ。そしてまた考える。そんなことを繰り返しながら、私たちビッツはテクノロジーの力で少しずつ世界を更新していきます。株式会社ビッツは自動車を中心とする様々な分野のソフトウェア開発やセーフティー&セキュリティのコンサルティングを行う企業です。名古屋本社、名古屋テクノロジーセンターのほか、
Pause it right there. Nagoya Head Office Technology Center. Now you guys can barely see this, but what's important is this smash is all FUD, 100%, where people said all this stuff is speculative. There's nothing there. On that screen right there, this is like what they call a crypto Hulk moment, right? Jasmy, written plain as day on that particular window or whatever the heck you want to call it, right? Where they're connecting everything. So we're connecting the dots, right? Jasmy, Jasmy, PDL. What does PDL stand for? Personal data locker. Let's try to blow this up just a tad bit more if you're having a hard time kind of following this for whatever reason. I'm going to show you guys this. So I did go ahead and try to blow this up as much as I could. And yeah, there it is right there. If anything, maybe I could just do a tad bit more. Makes it kind of smudged though. Let me see. Yeah, it makes it kind of smudged, but there it is. That highlight, Jasmy, PDL, personal data locker, right? I mean, you may think, well, this is awesome. You may be that type of guy like, well, I don't really understand how this is awesome. What's there to understand? Basically, it's like this. I'm going to jump back to this particular video once again. This is a little more clear when I do it this way. So, yeah. Look at that. That is a lot more clear. So Jasmy PDL, personal data locker. On the top right, they have this breakdown in regards to the user, the NFT, the consensus. So let's get into this for a second, right? To me, this is huge, absolutely huge, because it smashes the FUD 110% because the FUDders kept saying all that was speculative. We didn't hear anything official from Witz. But plain as day, right? We understand that when it comes to a lot of this stuff, there's NDAs, right? And if anything in Japan, with the honor system and so on, you have to keep in mind what? You have to keep in mind that they're perfectionists, right? And they do take their time on things. Also, they do try to respect NDAs, and sometimes stuff leaks out. There's a particular leak, if you will. This is a bombshell, flat out. I'm telling you, flat out. Absolute bombshell. Now, why make such a big deal about this, Max? I don't get why you want to do that. Well, we're going to get into that as well. So, here's another particular video. This comes actually from that same company, right? It's called Witz, and if anything, they have a lot of things going on, right? With IoT and so on. Check out this demo. It's called Demo-SF Twin Remote Control. The reason why you're going to want to see this is because, if anything, remember how we talked about with Jasmy, you have former Sony executives, right? And, some people used to say, well, these former Sony executives, I don't know, what was it like? They dishonor themselves by making Jasmy and all this stuff, right? Well, I think, if anything, there's a lot more to it than these BS claims, right? So my thing is this: why would a company like Witz want to get involved with Jasmy? All right, and we got more of that outline coming here in a bit. So I'm going to play this. You're going to get some aha moments here in a bit. And again, guys, it's all connecting the dots. 110%. You guys are getting the info first live on the live. Of course, I'm going to put a recorded video to get it out there as well later on. But you guys getting this first. Let's also continue to connect the dots. Watch this. Here we go. Look at that controller. I know you don't sound like much, right? But why even recognize a PlayStation controller? Just hear me out. And everything you see right here is IoT. And this comes from Witz, the same company that leaked out the Jasmy connection, if you will. Probably not intentional, but definitely leaked out. All right, there's obviously more to this, right? I just want to give you that quick gist. Now, let's get into this next particular page. Witz. Who the heck is Witz? Why should they matter? Well, Here's this page. It comes from Crunchbase. It says, Witz focuses on the research, design, and development of embedded softwares. Okay, that sounds cool. Recent activity and news and so on, right? You got all this stuff. Technically, they're founded back in June of 1997, right? You also got to keep in mind during the height of things around 96, 97, Sony PlayStation 1, just throwing that stuff out there, right? Which focuses on the research, design, and development of embedded softwares, right? The company also develops real-time operating systems, and IT solution softwares, which was established, like I mentioned, 1997. It's headquartered in Nagoya, Japan. Nagoya, Japan. Well, Max, you're going to have to give me a little bit more in regards to that. I got you covered. So you may be wondering, why even draw any type of connection to embedded software operating system? Well, we should, right? So what is an embedded operating system, right? An embedded operating system is a specialized operating system designed to perform a specific task for a device that is not a computer. Perfect example, your Android device, right? It could be also some of these other particular things, right? Even Linux. Well, as we know, Linux is a non-profit operating system, right? It's a pretty darn good operating system. So Linux and Android are two powerful operating systems used in most of the embedded systems today. Is operating system and embedded software? It's a good question. An embedded operating system is a specialized operating system designed to perform a specific task for a device that is not a computer, hence Internet of Things. The main job of an embedded operating system is to run the code that allows the device to do its job. Here are some examples of embedded systems: central heating systems, engine management systems in vehicles. That Toyota Witz partnership. Subsidiary. Didn't Max cover this in the past? Yes, he did. Domestic appliances such as dishwashers. Again, Internet of Things. Who talked about some of these things in the past in regards to Internet of Things, right? That we didn't need to have everything that's IoT talking to each other in an unsafe way. Gilbert Verdian, Quant, right? Digital watches, electronic calculators, GPS systems. Think about the whole thing that Jasmy was trying to solve with that, right? We were talking about that, right? That, they want to have something in which protects the private data of people who drive down the street in Japan when it comes to autonomous vehicles and so on, the GPS systems, even fitness trackers, all right? So let me jump into a little bit more in regards to this. So there's obviously a lot more to this. All right. And if anything, it's nice to, I guess you could say, put the pieces together and go from there. So let's do just that. Now there's this, and I will give a shout out to Mike Cornwall in regards to this. So Mike, here you go. Japan approves Web3 white paper to promote industry growth in the country, Jasmy and so on. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to get back in the comments, but this is big stuff. All right. So this came from CoinDesk. This was reported. Apparently, I think that was yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday. So what's this all about? And if anything, why should it matter to you? Well, we're going to jump into that. So before we play the actual video that I have for you today from CoinDesk, and yes, I did remove my ad blocker so we can have it. I know you guys are all accusing me of using LimeWire back in the day, but look what it says. Japan approves Web3 white paper to promote industry growth in the country. The document proposes more tax reforms, clear accounting standards, and a DAO law. All right. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party Web3 project team has published a white paper laying out recommendations for boosting the crypto industry in the country, which is part of Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's strategy of promoting technology and a project called Cool Japan. Now, I'll remind you, okay? I meant to share that particular tab. Sorry about that. I will remind you of a particular individual. You may know him. Obviously, he's me. And there's other content creators that can't take the full credit in regards to this. All right. I'll show you this real quick. Here it is. Type in Japan. Why am I going to do this? Because it's going to give you an outline to further solidify the research and to further pound it home of some of the things we covered. There's Cold Japan. Jasmy, Cold Japan. There's a report 2 months ago. NFTs and DAOs, the Jasmy connection. How about them apples? How about that? Old Maximus connecting the dots long before a lot of other people were. Huh? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, we're going to get into a little bit more about this here in a bit. There's a lot of juicy stuff. So let's just take a moment to pause on this. Smash that like if you haven't done so already. If you old Jasmy, if you were bullish before and you're not that much more bullish now, I don't know what to tell you. I don't. None of this is financial advice. But boy, we love to bring you guys the deep dive research. Shout out to Tokenizer, freaking Quant Papa. Even if you don't, that's Quant Max. So what? The point is, the guys who put in the time when it comes to the research, that's what it's about. We talked a lot about this, right? We're going to play this video here in a second. I want to get down to this particular statement. So the white paper, right? Why does that matter? And if anything, we'll get into that. So it says, look at this quote. The cryptocurrency industry has been driven by early adopters, but it will shift to mass adoption from now on. Japan is really getting their crap together, right? Coach JV says, Warriors, rise, get your together, right? Japan obviously is getting together. I wish the United States had their attitude about how they're going about things right now. Like, we'd be in a totally different situation. Some people who are on the fence of, is this a bull run or not? You guys would be all on board. So look what it says here, all right? So it says, Akisha Shiozaki, Secretary General of the party's Web3 project team, said in an interview with CoinDesk Japan in regards to that particular quote. But look what it says here. Shiozaki pointed out that major companies in Japan have started to enter the market. Japanese mobile phone operator NTT Docomo pledged to invest up to 600 billion yen, which equates to 4 billion American, into Web3 infrastructure, and large institutions are looking to issue stablecoins. The white paper notes that Japan could demonstrate leadership at the Group of 7 summit this year, where crypto will be discussed. Now, a lot of this is verbatim, but you will understand nothing should be skipped here. Nothing. So it says the country should look ahead to the future potential Web3 and clarify its leading position on technology neutral and responsible innovation. So here's a quick gist, right? So here in the United States and around most of the world and so on, we need to get that regulatory clarity where we can have blast off for what? Institutional money, right? We all understand that. But when it comes to Japan, they have a whole different outlook. That's one of the key things you should pay attention to, right? 100%. Why is that? Well, like it says, the white paper notes that Japan should demonstrate leadership at the Group of 7 summit this year. They're being the leaders. They're the ones leading the way. How so? How many times have we talked about that we need to have people here in the United States and so on, right? We should embrace crypto, embrace innovation. That's the key. Japan has already figured that out long before everybody else, and rightfully so. Think about how big of a power player they have been when it comes to mainstream electronics, innovation, right? Japan spells innovation from the get-go. Literally the pioneers of electronical innovation, right? The days of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, even before there was even the debate of Web 1, right? They really have stood out. So it says where crypto will be discussed and says the country should look ahead to the future potential of Web3 and clarify its leading position on technology, neutral and responsible innovation. A pound at home. Innovation, innovation, innovation. It also proposes further changes to tax regulation, knowing that one significant exemption for token issuers has already been approved. Among the proposals is having tax exclusions for companies holding tokens issued by other companies that aren't going to be traded short term. While in the United States, we have, and I don't want to make this divisive, but let's face it, I think for the most part, whether you're Democrat, Republican, and so on, you have recognized that Elizabeth Warren is a freaking moron, right? And that is, she wants us to not have a crypto wallet. Now, why is that? If anything, maybe she would only be for a CBDC type of wallet, if you hear me out. Why would that be the case? For the government can monitor the activity of what goes on with those wallets. Is that decentralization? No, that's not decentralization. If anything, that's making it something more centralized. Japan is the opposite of that because of what? The clarity in its leading position on technology, neutral and responsible innovation. So in regards to all this stuff about changes to tax regulation and noting that one significant exemption for the token issuers has already been approved, yada, yada, look what it says. Among the proposals is having tax exclusions for companies holding what? Tokens issued by other companies that aren't going to be traded short term. It advises allowing self-assessment so that investors can carry over losses for 3 years, and says crypto should be taxed only when the assets are exchanged for fiat. Wouldn't it be great if our country embraced these types of proposals? Yeah, of course it would be. All right, we're going to jump down to this part on the bottom, but if anything, we're going to play this video first. This is 6 minutes. Pay attention to what's mentioned here. We already have connected the dots. So smash that like if you haven't done so already. This is the Jasmy news you're looking for. Thanks for being here tonight. Here we go.
There's a new white paper laying out Web3 recommendations for Japan's growing industry. And Emily, who's proposing this and what does it entail?
Hi, Christine. So yeah, this is a very lengthy and enthusiastic white paper that was issued from the ruling Liberal Democratic Party's Web3 project team, which is sort of a small but very vocal group of kind of crypto advocates among the Japanese political class. And it's just such a notable document because it really is trying to set Japan apart as a leader in kind of cryptocurrency regulation. And so this is a very long document, but I think we just need to talk first about the tone of the document. So initially it starts out with this statement, Japan is back again. That's what it says. So I think what they're referring to is this idea that, a few years ago, Japan was poised to be at the center of the Web3 and cryptocurrency world, that it kind of fell off the map because it was sort of traumatized by some very high profile hacks. One was Mt. Gox and the second was CoinCheck. And so Japan kind of disappeared for a while, and it was really, really strict. It was really hard to list tokens. It was really hard to do anything as an exchange. But now they're kind of back with a vengeance, and they are basically want to position themselves as a leader in cryptocurrency regulation. So, this document just has a lot of recommendations for NFTs, for DAOs, for taxes, for just clarification. But I think, again, the main point here is the tone of it and how it really seems to portray cryptocurrency and blockchain as a benefit as opposed to primarily a risk.
And this is a huge contrast to what's going on in the United States, where the White House has been a lot more cautious about crypto. Maybe you can explain that juxtaposition there.
Yeah, I mean, cautious is a really diplomatic word. Our colleague Nick Day referred to it as scathing when he reported on the White House report, which I think is very accurate if you look at the White House report. I mean, this report, I really recommend everybody read it because it is indeed scathing. Just to pull out like a sentence from it, indeed, crypto assets to date do not appear to offer investments with any fundamental value, nor do they act as an effective alternative to fiat money, improve financial inclusion, or make payments payments more efficient. That's just like a small tidbit of that White House report. Like they're not feeling it. They're not into crypto, right? So this is just like a warning document. Now, Japan, of course, is very aware of the risks, associated with crypto, but the language is so different. Now, the Japanese report is not translated to English yet, as far as I'm aware, but just, our colleagues at CoinDesk Japan did interview the Secretary General of the party's Web3 project team, Shiozaki-san, and, there's basically language in this document that says things like, the cryptocurrency industry was once driven by early adopters, but now it will shift to mass adoption. I mean, Japan is envisioning this world in which, everybody's using crypto, everybody has wallets, everybody's using NFTs. I mean, it's just, the two countries could not be more different in how they are looking at this issue.
What has given Japan the confidence to, become the world leader in crypto and blockchain technology, considering, they had those hacks you mentioned with Mt. Gox and everything, and we had this implosion with FTX and Terra Luna, especially that was impactful for those in South Korea.
Yeah. So basically what gave Japan the confidence is that they suffered a lot of hardship and they saw that they could survive it. And they saw that their regulatory framework was tough enough to withstand some really bad things happening, right? So, I mean, if you look at Mt. Gox, that was a very, very early disaster. And then CoinCheck, which was a large Japanese exchange at the time, was the largest hack in cryptocurrency history. So Japan took the time to kind of like get their regulations in place. And then with FTX Japan was one of the few places where users actually got their money back, in large part thanks to Japanese regulatory protections. For example, very basic one, Japan requires exchanges to segregate customer assets from, corporate assets, which, most other places don't have. So basically, I feel like where a lot of countries are sort of living in fear of the other shoe to drop or something terrible to happen, Japan has already had a bunch of terrible things happen. Now they see that they can withstand it. So some of that fear is gone. And now they've kind of moved on to the, this is an opportunity phase.
So are they confident in their regulatory structures and how did they envision themselves as a leader in the blockchain Web3 crypto space?
I think that they are fairly confident. I mean, I think, for example, as I mentioned, this one clause they have about separating customer and exchange assets, like this seems pretty obvious, but it's not like we have that in a lot of other places. Another thing that they put in after the hacks was basically 95% of assets need to be stored in cold wallets. So they have like a few provisions in place. But the other thing about Japan that's really important is that it's very clear and it's very straightforward. Japan has the FSA, the Financial Services Agency. They're in charge of crypto. It's very clear. It's not like the US where there's like all these different people, all these different agencies. We don't even know what's a security and what's a commodity. Japan is just way more clear. Now, I do want to note here that there is some criticism that Japan, in fact, is too strict and that it is not easy at all to operate an exchange in Japan. And I think that's valid. But I think that, again, at least they're working on it and at least they're trying to set, a more clear regulatory framework in place.
Yeah, really interesting to see the evolution of this. I remember when you first started talking about Japan, you mentioned how cautious they were. Institutions and retail were definitely very hesitant to enter the space. But now it seems that after this wave of crypto and the collapse that we've seen in the US, they are more confident in getting into the space. So it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, really cool to say that, see that, like she said. I mean, it's just, it's amazing stuff. We're going to get more into this particular outline. Glad to share that video with you guys. Shout out to Crypto Mike who tagged me in regards to that earlier. Some of you guys who also watched the show did also tag me in that regard as well. So I didn't want to discount that. I do appreciate everybody who shared that in regards to that white paper. Where were we at with that? We were talking about this whole thing from Japan's ruling liberal Democratic Party's Web3 project, right? So we watched the video and let's jump back into the outline that we have. All right. So as you can see right here, we talked a lot about some of these things, right? So I showed you guys a highlight about cool Japan and how big that was, right? This is while other governments are looking to put regulation in place to protect consumers, Japan is trying to create a friendlier environment for crypto after firms began, listen to this, leaving for other jurisdictions because of heavy tax burdens. Everything you see outlined, is a direct response compared to the other narrative that's going on in the world. That's the bottom line. You know, we want the United States to basically, you know, do some of these things that Japan is already doing, but they're not doing that. You know, you have one political party that's after the other. You have some people on the other side who still don't get it. They haven't educated themselves. But the key thing here is Japan, from the beginning of, you know, the electronical era of advancement, if you will, whether you want to call it like the days of the 1970s with Atari or whatever the case be, they have always have stood out in front of the rest of other countries as far as being the innovators for advancements in what, guys? Technology. So it says the Web3 project team has been bypassing the usual bureaucratic. Think about what I just mentioned about here in the United States, right? You know, we have too much bureaucratic nonsense, but they have bypassed that, the usual bureaucratic processes, to formulate regulatory proposals for everything from NFTs to decentralized autonomous organizations. Now, a little bit more in regards to this. You know, it says here that, excuse me, kind of, I guess I'm channeling crypto Hulk with clearing my throat all the time. Anyway, it says the white paper notes that Japan should demonstrate leadership at the Group of Seven summit this year. We talked about that, but it also proposes further changes to tax regulation, noting that one significant exemption for token issues has already been approved. I think we also talked about that as well. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, in regards to the document, we're going to get into the actual document here in a bit. It identifies a lack of accounting standards as an urgent issue, as Web3 companies have had difficulties, finding auditors. It says that ministries and agencies should support the Japanese Institute of Certified Public Accountants in formulating guidelines. We don't even have anything like that right now. Think about that for a second. We don't even have anything close to that. We're trying to get regulations set, not just here, but I mean, if you think about like the overall crypto space, right? Not really Japan. Is trying to get the path forward for regulatory clarity, for we can get excited about everything. I'm telling you flat out, Japan is a different situation. And it's a different situation because they fully embrace innovation. At the same time, that's what we basically want for all of it. We want that. You've heard Denell Dixon from Stellar mention that, right? It's the suppression of innovation. That's what kills everything, right? Japan they already get it, and they already got it a long time ago. Where do we go from here? Well, let's talk a little bit more about this. So it says it also advises setting up a DAO law based on Japan's Godo Kaisha. If you're wondering about that, it's a type of business similar to a limited liability company, right? An LLC. And making changes to regulations, again, regulations under the Companies Act and the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act. And of course, you can look more into that yourself. Now, in regards to this white paper, and I promise we're going to pull that up. The white paper notes that the screening process for tokens already in circulation is shortening. Think about what it says, is shortening. What's a perfect example of a token that is shortening? Yeah, Jasmy. How do we know that? Well, let's pull that back up. So again, guys, it's all about connecting the dots. And we've been doing this for the longest time, have we not? We have. So, you know, let's jump back into this. All right. And this is straight from CMC. And you guys know this for the most part, but if you're new to Jasmy, you should pay attention to this. So circulating supply, currently speaking, is at 95%, right? We have a supply of 47,569,999,999. A max of total supply are both equal of 50 billion. That means by the end of the year, we have been informed that the remaining supply would be available, and I believe they're going to do a lockup, right? Remember that whole thing? And we'll get more into that later. Some of you guys have requested that. Now let's jump back, because if anything, this helps with the particular outline, the understanding of the significance of this. Let's pound it home a little bit more. When we jump back to the particular outline that we have, and again, here it is. understand what it mentions, right? The screening, and I'll highlight this for you, process for tokens already in circulation is shortening. Boom. There's a little bit more of that proof. So there is a Jasmy connection. Yes. How's there a Jasmy connection? They're the first of its kind. And at one point, they were the only ones. So Flutters can say anything they want in regards to that. That's a fact. But reviewing the new tokens issued by foreign entities remains slow. It advises making procedures more transparent so that issuers can present the information necessary for review. Now, in regards to all this, Japan has passed a framework for regulating stablecoins last year. We saw that. If anything, they did a global banning, right? Circle, Tether, you name it. The new white paper stresses the importance of creating a process for stablecoin registration and establishing a self-regulatory organization. It also mentions developing proposals for yen-backed stablecoins. So it's not like they're just saying, yeah, we're embracing, the rest of the world, but, to hell with us. No, this is Japan, for crying out loud. They don't have their head up their butt like all the other countries out there. I hate to say that. I love America. I do. Absolutely. But we do need to pull our heads out of our butt when it comes to not embracing innovation, and especially when it comes to understanding like distributed ledger technology, blockchain, you name it. If we're supposed to be the ones that were first in the 20th century, we sure as the hell aren't first right now in the 21st century. Large companies in Japan have shown interest in the Web3 industry. The white paper, however, says that approvals for banks and insurance companies entering the industry remains unclear. And it says the government should lay out guidelines. They are fast tracking that. They are literally monitoring what the heck is going on with the rest of the world. And on top of that, I need to re-advise people, where do they rank in GDP, gross domestic product? They rank number 3 in the entire world. And they're an island country, for crying out loud. Rank number 3 in the world in GDP. The key thing is confidence, clarity, and the path forward for innovation. Bullish news. People accuse me like, oh, you're just one of those, the Flutters. Oh, you're just one of those guys who's trying to pump his own bags and so on. Yeah, want to know something? Not that. But if anything, I'm just like the rest of you guys, all right? I recognize Jasmy for one reason and one reason only. Not just because of the innovation and connecting the dots, that risk to reward ratio, being close to the bottom and seeing where we can go from here. Hence why we're in XRP, hence why we're into all of these other ones, XDC, XLM. That risk to reward ratio stands out for these ISO 222s. Yeah, Jasmy's not ISO 222. That doesn't matter. It doesn't even need that, right? It's not about messaging. This is a different platform. But how about this? If you hold DAG, right, the connection to data. If you hold like what Tokenizer was mentioning, right, Energy Web Token, totally different thing. But the key thing is data. Nixera, data, right? The key thing is data. That's digital oil. We're talking about assets backed by gold. How about digital oil? Back in the old days of, was it the early 1900s and so on, right? Have you ever seen that movie? What is it? There Will Be Blood, right? Daniel Day-Lewis. Highly recommend seeing that movie. Great film. We would have killed to have had our ancestors struck oil in our backyard. I'm telling you flat out, we live in a Web3 era where the digital version of that is literally right in front of our eyes. How do you recognize it? Where do you go with that? And if anything, how do we recognize the opportunities? Do we stack? Yeah, in my opinion, I think we do. And this is where I'm consistent on this whole debate of, can Jasmy possibly get us to the promised land first? That's the bottom line, right? A lot of people are impatient. You got spoiled with DOGE or Shiba Inu back in 2021. And you want the next thing out there that you feel as though could get you to where you need to be, right? You're invested into XRP, Quant, and all these other ones, like myself. But there might be one that gets you to where you need to be on your goals first. Could it be Jasmy? I'm not a fortune teller, but it could be. There might be something big here. Now, where are we going to go more with this? Well, we'll get into that in a bit. We showed you the whole thing in regards to CoinDesk. Big stuff in regards to that, right? Here is actually the white paper. Now you may be thinking, oh God, I'm just going to leave. I don't want to view a white paper, right? Well, it's been interpreted from Japanese to English. So cool stuff. And this gets into, like, I guess you could say the key highlights, right? I did download the PDF into, and so on. I did try to get ChatGPT to interpret it because it did it for me before, but with the latest update, it's not doing it no more. I don't know what's up with that. So I was hoping to have that ready for you guys. Maybe I'll do that on a different show tomorrow, you name it. But here you go. LDP Web3 white paper. Japan is back again. Yeah, basically referencing, like, some Slim Shady, M80. You little look like that King lady, right? Kim, I should say. So it says on April 6, 2023, the Web3 project team, Chairman Masaki Terra, member of the House of Representatives of the Liberal Democratic Party, Digital Society Promotion Headquarters, head, right? All these people, right? I don't need to read it all. Published the Web3 white paper. And again, part of our outline. So, if you just connect and you don't understand what we're talking about, you can always go back. But it says towards an era where everyone can utilize digital assets. And I'm just telling you guys flat out, from this moment on, Japan, you're going to see them pop up a lot more. You're going to see other content creators covering this as well, and it's fine. Was approved by the subcommittee. All of the PT colleagues who cooperated in sorting out a wide range of issues and proposals, and the working groups members who support the project, from sorting out the issues to the draft. He's like, I would like to express my gratitude. Why is that? Well, like it says, this right here, I actually skipped that. So it says we're going towards, they are, as in Japan, going towards an era where everyone can utilize digital assets. That's one of the key things, right? So look what it says. Japan may be the first welcome spring after crypto winter. How many times have we mentioned this whole thing with ISO 222? How it's very funny how they chose literally March 20th to go live with ISO 222. Why would that be? The first day of spring, coming out of crypto winter, right? Call it a coincidence, call it what the heck you want. But man, do we see so many black swan events or mini black swan events even leading up before that time? The depegging of Circle, right? With USDC, we saw DAI depeg, US double D with Tron. What was the other one? FEI USD, right? Another stable coin, less popular, right? But anyway, like it says here, Japan is back again. This is a proposal that contains our expectations and ale. We hope that many people will read it and give us your opinions as we move towards a new stage for Web3. How many times has there been white papers released where nobody gave a crap, right? They actually do care. They want to get some information in regards to that. And I did download this. You can too. And if you're wanting to look more into this, you're just going to nerd it out, you go to note.com, this particular URL. And if anything, I can just drop it in the chat, and I'm going to do it right now. If you want to take a look at it, boom, there it is. So let's get into a little bit more in regards to this. So it says Digital Society Promotion Headquarters, Web3 PT Executive, some of these guys, right? They have these pictures, thanking everybody very much, right? It's good stuff, right? All right, there's a little bit more in regards to all of this on our particular outline. And I want to get into this. And I know it's a lot of Jasmy news tonight, but rightfully so. Takes the cake 100% with what we dropped earlier. So application of Jasmy PDL. What is PDL? Personal Data Locker in Tisawit system. Now, this dates back to February 18th of 2022. Well, why pay attention to this? Well, everything comes full circle when it comes to a lot of things, right? And especially when it comes to Jasmy. Now, listen to this. Look what's reported here. It says Shunichi Shimbun reported on the operation of the Tisawit system using Jasmy personal data locker technology on February 15th, 2022. Listen to this. It's reported that a Chatten Stadium, one of the strongholds of the Sino-Japanese Okinawa spring training camp, a system using smartphones. Remember what we talked about earlier? Remember with the whole thing of our outline with that particular operating system that was focused on Android and like Linux-based systems, if you will, right? Look what it mentions. A system using smartphones that manages the entrances and exits of visitors and discloses congestion status is in operation. Why point this out? Again, Internet of Things, personal data locker, but if anything, understanding that this is Japanese citizens' private data. They totally go about things the opposite of how we go about it. Can you imagine you be in control of your data? And if anything, you choose if you want to allow Facebook, Google, Amazon Web Services, et cetera, if they should use your data to give you targeted ads. And if anything, you control the monetization of that. If anything, you get paid. Yeah, totally different type of society, right? So it says this system was introduced as a countermeasure against novel coronavirus infection. Visitors can check the crowding situation on the website. And there's, of course, this whole thing written up about it, right? But look what it says right here in regards to Jasmy, because that's what you're here for, right? We learned that the Witz system was jointly developed by Jasmy and Witz. Again, we gave you the outline of Witz. There really was a connection. There is a connection. A well-known travel service provider, this commercial system is the first time to introduce Jasmy. Again, PDL stands for Personal Data Locker Technology to filter out sensitive user information. Personal identity, verification, and auditing can be carried out when the users only provides non-personal sensitive information. Some of these things you see right here, your interests, your hobbies, you name it, right? This reduces information management security risk while providing personalized service to its users. Now look what it says here. In the traditional authentication system, like what you and I know, right, in the rest of the world, registered personal information must be authenticated according to personal sensitive real information. For example, your phone, ID card, address, face-to-face, et cetera, et cetera. But in Witz system, listen to this, personal information is converted into encrypted personal information in, listen to that, Jasmy's personal data locker. So all the fudders that want to say, this is only coming from Jasmy, and we never heard it come from Witz, we know that to be a line of malarkey. And how so? Well, again, refer back to this right here, because this was what was leaked. And plain as day, you can zoom in all you want. It shows at the Nagoya Head Office Technology Center, Jasmy PDL, Personal Data Locker. And you have some examples of what you see here in regards to the steps of authentication, the PIN, the user. Again, connect the dots for yourself. You can draw your own conclusion when it comes to this. A little bit more in regards to this. Just to pound it home that much more. And I promise we'll get into some of the other news. So, when I went further into more of this particular outline, I said to myself, man, there's got to be a little bit more here. And there is. There's a lot more. Look what it mentions also right here. It says that, basically speaking, in regards to PDL, it can confirm the personal information in the personal data locker to be correct. Even information about people's behavior, which might be related to, for instance, COVID, right? And we understand the whole thing with COVID. A little bit further down in regards to Witz, which is from Witz. The Witz system can make portraits from non-personal information, interests, hobbies, age, etc. They don't go to the point where it's like a complete invasion of Japanese citizens' privacy. If anything, they recognize that there's bounds and they can't overstep those particular bounds. So it says, without the need for third-party platforms to know, like I just mentioned, real personal information, phone ID addresses, et cetera, and conduct identity verification audits. In many scenarios, such as sports events, and how do we know this? Remember, Saga and Tosu, right? That particular a baseball team, but soccer team in Japan, right? Concerts, exhibitions, et cetera, right? Big, events with a lot of people. The Witz system can better provide services close to users and easily confirm participation and activities. use of facilities, entertainment, and check-in and check-out service. Now, you may be thinking, man, you're really putting a lot of emphasis on this. Well, rightfully so. Because the reason why this all makes sense and why it should make sense to you and why it should matter to you specifically is one key thing, and that is Jasmy's main utility through data democratization, right? The Jasmy personal data locker. That's their main utility layer. But as a report, like it says right here, Jasmy's technology has begun to be commercialized. It has been, and that's good, because the more it's been commercialized, you're seeing that video that we showed a while back with the drones, in the night sky near Tokyo and so on. I think it might have been also Osaka, if I'm not mistaken. They're doing a lot of advertisements. You're seeing community people say, hey, I saw some billboards for Jasmy. I even engaged with some of those people. Say, can you do us a favor? Take some pictures, take some videos, share it, smash FUD, squash FUD. It says, let's wait and see the digital information services brought by Jasmy in diverse scenarios, right? On the road of decentralized IoT, right, Internet of Things development, listen to this. Jasmy is continuing to strengthen cooperation with Witz, actively working to realize the basic concept of data democracy, just like I mentioned before, in various fields and by means of IoT and blockchain and data democracy to use the valuable data safely and reliably in the internet society. Now, we can go through the whole thing of Witz a little bit more, but I'm not going to do that. What I want to state is this whole road towards strengthening the cooperation, for instance, with Witz and IoT and so on. Why make such a big deal about that? The reason why you want to make such a big deal about that, or why we draw so much emphasis to that, I'm going to stop the share on that, is for this. And I'm looking around, I want to tell you this flat out. There's only a select amount, like a handful, if that, of official Japanese crypto-sponsored or crypto-related projects that are in Japan. Jasmy was the first. So if we as crypto investors put so much emphasis on, you know what, man, I'm in this one DJ and play, and man, they might get this particular, utility. You always hear about that. Oh, and when that happens, man, this thing's going to go to the moon. How would you like to have something in which you already have things in place? And if anything, you're one of like a short list, because there is no other ones really. And it is basically Jasmy. So with them, it's IoT, Internet of Things, right? And the services that are involved with the government of Japan, let's face it, whether it's through GPS tracking or keeping track of people going to these big events and so on. If we're all gung-ho, no pun intended, watch that movie if you haven't done so already, starring Michael Keaton, came out, I think, 1986 or 85, something like that. If we're all gung-ho on utility, then you should be looking more into Jasmy, because if you can narrow down where a whole entire country is going to be utilizing your utility and combine that with the unbanning of foreign stable coins and combine that with you are developing your own Japanese yen stable coin that's tied into that. Remember we talked about the whole thing with Japanese CBDC? Oh my gosh. All of those factors make me that much more incredibly bullish on Jasmy. So with that said, I know it was a big outline for tonight in regards to Jasmy, but it had to get out there. And I did take more of a deeper dive into it. And I was blown away with what was found. And that's what I'm talking about. When we have people from the community who pay attention, and that guy, right, who saw that earlier today, and he was like, my God, wow, look at this. It's literally on the screen. Now, they're going to have a problem with the NDL. I don't know. That's not our problem. But the key thing is that completely smashes all of the FUD that all these FUDders claim that was not there when it comes to Witz. And why is that even that much more bullish? Because Witz is what? They are a Toyota subsidiary. Special like if you haven't done so already. If you appreciate the content, drop a comment, do whatever you want. If you're listening, driving down the road, whatever, we really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have not yet subscribed, do yourself a favor and subscribe for more information on the ISO 222 compliant tokens, and hit the notification bell to make sure that you are aware of the new videos when they come up. Max and I cover these ISOs, and we also have a live show every single night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tune in for that. You won't want to miss it. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next video.